Welcome all to today's podcast. We are going to talk about a topic which is applicable to all of us, and the theme is posture for pain free living. Today, actually, also happens to be the International Podcast Day, and what better way to celebrate than with a very own special guest for today, Esther Gokhale. Esther has been involved in integrative therapies all her life. As a young girl growing up in India, she helped her mother, a nurse, treat abandoned babies waiting to be adopted. This early interest in healing led her to study biochemistry at Harvard and Princeton, and later acupuncture at the San Francisco School of Oriental Medicine. After experiencing crippling back pain during her first pregnancy and unsuccessful back surgery, Esther began her lifelong crusade to vanquish back pain. Her studies at the Aplomb Institute in Paris and years of research in Brazil, India, Portugal, and elsewhere led her to develop the Gokhale Method, a unique systematic approach to help people find their bodies way back to pain free living. Esther's book, Eight Steps to a Pain Free Back, which I have here, also available on Amazon, has sold over 200,000 copies and has been translated into 10 languages. In 2010, she hosted the nationally televised program Back Pain, the Primal Posture Solution. The Gokle method continues to grow as dozens of qualified teachers, each personally trained by Esther, now teach the method worldwide. Esther has taught at corporations such as Google, IDEO, and Facebook, presented at conferences including TEDx Stanford and Ancestral Health Symposium, consulted for the trainers of the SF 49ers and several Stanford sports teams, and conducted workshops for physician groups at Stanford, Kaiser Permanente, Sutter Health, PAMF, and UCSF. The New York Times gave Esther the title the Posture Guru of Silicon Valley in 2013. With that inspiring introduction, I will now invite Esther. Good morning, Esther.
Hello, very, very glad to be with you.
Yeah, we all are really excited to actually host you. And we know that you have a background from India and you have spent many years here. So yeah, so it's really nice to have you here. And just to give everyone a brief and how I came across your work was I was seeing one of Danny Ryer's videos and
Hmm.
where he had interviewed you. So we have some chi running instructors in India when Danny had come down. So through that, and I was like, I have to get you on this platform because I mean, we will talk about it, but we know that, if you talk to three people and I think one out of three have suffered back pain or some kind of pain, in their life or so on. And the importance of posture is something that has excited a lot of people over the last few weeks that I've been advertising about this talk.
Yeah, it's an 85% incidence of back pain. So it's a rare situation when someone doesn't have back pain, serious enough to go and visit their physician at some point in their lives. So it's actually the number one cause of global disability. And
Yeah.
and we haven't figured out in conventional approaches, we haven't figured out how to address this problem. None of the well-known interventions work very well. And so I feel very privileged to have come upon a solution that actually works, that's accessible by everybody. And more than half of our students will use the word life changing by the end of their course. So it's a responsibility and a privilege to be able to bring that to people. And
Yeah.
people like you help
Yeah.
me bring the message to a wider number of people because really nobody should be unaware of this. It's a very sad thing that the message hasn't gotten out to
Yes.
people when they need it.
Yes. And I also feel, Esther, it's like, if someone is experiencing back pain, the only thing they do is visit the doctor, pop a pill, or go through interventions. That is something
Yeah.
that comes into their mind first, not the other things.
Yeah. In the US, the most popular intervention for someone with back problems is physical therapy. But then if that doesn't work, and it usually doesn't work, is the sad truth if you look at the statistics, then the other interventions are more intrusive. So it can progress rapidly to cortisone injections and surgery. And those are also not effective. So there are a lot of people who have tried all sorts of things and have pretty much given up looking for a solution, because they've been
Yeah.
on a roller coaster and been disappointed so many times. And I always tell people, never give up hope. Don't give up looking for a solution. Even if you've been disappointed in the past, just because 10 things didn't work doesn't mean the 11th thing isn't exactly what you need. So
Yeah.
dare to hope. It takes courage to hope. It takes courage to go through an emotional roller coaster. But it's important to always have an open mind that there might be something out there that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, as the people spend a lot of money, like you said, they go to doctors and they go through interventions and cortisol injections. They spend so much money to heal their backs,
Yeah.
and it's a $1 billion industry. So, what is your personal experience with back pain?
Yeah, well, it's a $300 billion industry in the US. And the average person with back pain spends $5,000 a year on their back pain, their various massages and chiropractic interventions and so on. So, yeah. And I know that journey, I know that route, because after I had severe back problems, starting in the ninth month of my first pregnancy, I did all the usual conservative things and then alternative things, and I was coming up empty. Nothing was really helping me. And, a lot of these things are covered by insurance. So it's
Yeah.
a hidden, it's not a cost directly to me, but it is a cost to me through insurance premiums and through the way society bears that burden, which is that people are not really available to life, to their jobs, to their families. I mean, I remember having to worry about what sort of bed there might be if I traveled, and
Yeah.
therefore kind of curtailing certain activities because you feel on shaky ground. And but at the worst, it was absolutely awful. It was like I had an ice pick in my bottom with radiating pain down my leg, sciatic pain, and I couldn't pick up my baby, and I couldn't even pick up a cooking pot without feeling twinges of that sciatic nerve. And I also couldn't sleep through the night. I would wake up every 2 hours with severe spasm and then have to walk around the block to relieve the spasm. And that's no way to live. Uh, yeah. And I didn't want to take pain meds because I was nursing my baby and I didn't want to have that meds in my system. So I just suffered. And there are a lot of people going through really horrific pain and then getting addicted to opioids or trying one intervention after another and not really succeeding in finding a solution. So that was me. I eventually had surgery, which gave me relief. But then a year later, I had the same reherniation. This, my L5S1 disc
Yeah.
reherniated, and I had the same horrible experience all over again. And I was being offered another surgery. So I was still in my 20s. So multiple back surgeries doesn't bode well. That will often lead to an unstable spine and fusion surgery. And then your prognosis is not that good. So I was really desperate to avoid that, but everything had failed already. And I ended up casting a wider and wider net. And it didn't make sense to me that in my mid-20s there was something, some intervention that needed to happen, that's what I was missing. What made sense to me were the approaches that um, look to improve your own body structure, that there was something I was doing wrong. That made sense to me. And so I read, and I think part of why that kind of approach resonated for me was because my mom, my Dutch RN registered nurse mom, who raised all four of us children with my Indian dad in mainly Mumbai, but also Madras at the time. It was called Madras and
Yeah.
Calcutta. Um, and she would always marvel at people on the streets who were carrying, the vendors who would carry heavy loads, and also the sweeper who would come and work in our house for hours on her haunches, squatting and sweeping, and not have any physical discomfort or problems. And she would point these people out, and that made a very strong impression on me growing up. So, this notion that people who live close to the ground, literally, and poorer people, people who have to live by their bodies, people who live in more traditional settings, who have kinesthetic wisdom passed down to them through the generations, that they have something that we in modern times have lost, that in city life and in a life that involves a lot of transplanting, you're raising your children in one place, the grandparents are in a totally different place. So US is a country of transplants, and a lot of wisdom has gotten lost, and that happens with city life the world over. Industrial society kind of separates work and home, and kinesthetic things are not something that anybody has written down and articulated and created a substitute for that handing down, that unbroken thread of wisdom, body wisdom that gets passed down. So we're missing that, and I was missing that, and I paid for it, and it was horrendous. And so when I was being proposed the second surgery, and the first surgery had already failed, I was casting a wider and wider net. Long story short, by doing the things that I have written about in my book, structural changes to my body, elongating my spine, reshaping my spine, changing the way I sit, stand, bend, walk, lie, lift, exercise, do yoga, changing everything 24/7. Um, and it's not as hard as it sounds.
Yeah.
I got out of pain. I never needed that second surgery. And it's been decades now that I have not suffered back pain. And I managed to have two more children without any problems, no event. I learned to cross country ski with my son on my
Wow.
back. And I feel very empowered. And this is life changing doesn't begin to describe my experience. It's just a complete opening of new possibilities and of being able to live life well. And it continues to evolve in me, like the realizations that come with a return to our more natural state. It extrapolates into the emotional realm, into physiological function being better, so many ways. And so I just continue to be grateful for what I reap from this direction. And I want to pass this on to other people. It's very important. People suffer a lot. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of that suffering is unnecessary. And so, here I have something that can actually alleviate a lot of suffering. So I work hard to teach people, get the word out, and continue to make it a better and better offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so wonderful, Esther, because there are so many people who don't do certain activities because it's their back that is stopping them, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
And those
yeah.
activities are not just, it's not just that they can't do frivolous things, like skydiving. It's they can't walk. They can't lift up their child. I had that. They can't do their housework. It's things that we would like
Or
everybody to have.
yeah, or just pick up something from the floor. Like all the surface work is like so much that we do, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's picking up something or folding something. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we do with the floor and the surface. So that
It's true.
itself is like makes you think twice. If someone has back pain, how do I bend
Yeah.
and do that?
And so we teach a way of bending and walking. Like bending is can be really therapeutic for someone. Yeah, but it has to be done skillfully. It has to be done in accordance with the natural principles of the body.
Yeah.
So we tend to bend with a rounded back in modern times, and that loads every disc. It loosens the ligaments, allowing you to bend more and more rounded. And then what we think we should do is bend with the knees, which is an improvement on rounded back bending, but will wear the knees out and is not practical for all tasks. So, what people really need to learn is the primal way of bending. We call it hip hinging in the Gokle Method. And that is with the flat back, but it has to be done very precisely because kind of flat is problematic. We can still load the discs and do a lot of damage. But we train people to elongate their spine, to restructure their spine, and then take that restructured spine intact into a bend. And this is what you see in the rice fields of village India and
Yeah.
villages the world over. This is what people who have lived by their body all their lives, this is what they're doing. And we can learn from them.
Yeah, and Esther, it's like you visited so many parts of the world observing
How
people.
lucky
Is
am I? How lucky
yes.
am I?
Yeah, and I've just been reading about it, in your book. You have such lovely pictures demonstrated here of people just with the right posture, and no one's really taught them. It's just come naturally uh, to them, right? So, how
Yeah.
prevalent is back pain in those countries wherever you've traveled, like you said, Africa and Brazil, and yeah,
So, what I have observed is that when you go to the more remote places, which are harder and harder to find, of course, as modern industrial culture sweeps across the globe, um, you find this beautiful bending and beautiful J spine structure. We'll talk about it later. All these
yeah,
intact ways of doing things and being in your body. And then back pain is rare. But when it goes south, when you bring industrial culture to these kind of cultures, so we set up a cement factory and these people are now carrying more load than they would in their village existence and for longer hours. And maybe they are away from their families and away from all the moderating things that happen in a culture. And now it goes south fast. They also don't have social security. They can't take a day off from work. They're not empowered in the same way to um, design their lives.
mm,
And now the rates skyrocket. They are worse off than the city folk. That's my observation. So it goes from being extremely wonderful to really problematic fast because it's not like they're getting the best of modern culture. They're getting the dregs. They're getting, you know, uh, uh, yeah, the
like
jobs that
labor, yeah, labor
well,
being used in a factory.
labor like factory life,
Yeah.
and not much reprieve, and they're not, so it can go south fast. That's what I observe.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And the
And
statistics support that.
right. So, what is the Gokhale method, Esther? If you can just tell our audience.
It's a pathway to go from wherever you are with your body, whatever shape your spine is, whatever habits you have, the way you sit, the way you bend, to what we describe as a primal way of being in your body, primal architecture, a J spine, a certain shape in your body, and also a certain way of doing everyday things. And then it's also, so it's how to get from here to there. And it's a particularly efficient and effective way of taking people from whatever compromise structure they have to something very improved that is closer to what they had when they were little children, closer to what their hunter-gatherer ancestors, and you don't even have to go that far back, their ancestors had, closer to what people in these villages that we're talking about have. So that's what the Gokle Method is. It's a set of techniques. It's a methodology. It also includes some, very few products to help, since modern people sit a lot at computers, like how do you change? So we have a chair, we have a backrest that we've designed to help people improve their structures. Yeah. So that's what it is. And there are a lot of little things attached to this. So it's a few products, a kind of view of life, you could say, that cherishes what is natural, at the same time very pragmatic. It's not let's go back to sticks and stones. It's recognizing the value of many things in modern life, and bringing wisdom from the past that we have left behind, that we have lost, into this modern context.
Right. And how does it compare to other methods that people go for?
So give me some you'd like me to compare with. So there are methods that use posture and use the body. None of these are very well known. Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, is Pilates is a little better known. How it compares with those, I think the biggest distinction is that it's out of the ballpark more effective, as evidenced on crowdsourcing websites. And I can provide you a link with a third-party website. It's called healthoutcome.org, where they compare. They ask the public, and they spend millions of dollars in ads gathering this data. Do you have back pain? What have you tried? What was your experience? Share it. And we are just outliers in effectiveness compared not only with those things, but compared with everything, compared with physical therapy, compared with surgery, cortisone injections. The chance of a cure or almost cure doing the Gokle method is 50 times higher than the runner-up. It's not slightly better. It's an outlier. And that's, I think, the main distinction. And all the side effects are positive, like you not only get rid of your pain, but now you're going to look better and run better and function better and have more energy and so many other things. So that's huge. What else is different about it? It costs so much less than the average intervention, and it's and it doesn't take much investment of time, because all the exercises that you are going to do are done in the course of daily living. So you are going to bend differently. You're going to walk differently. You're walking anyway, but now you learn to walk differently. And each step becomes a rep and a stretch and an exercise for various parts of you. So that's different too, that it doesn't take time out of your life. It doesn't have a lot of equipment. It doesn't include a lot of cost, but there is an initial investment in learning how to be in your body. And so that isn't for everybody. If people want to pop a pill, this is not for them. Because you do have to expend, it's not much energy, it's not much money, it's not much bandwidth, mental bandwidth, but it is some. And so you have to be open to learning and addressing things at their root So, and then you get all kinds of amazing side benefits that are positive, and you solve most problems, most skeletal
Yeah.
problems. It's not that you have an exercise set for your shoulders and another one for your knee and another one for your back. And pretty soon that's a full-time job that you didn't really want. This is, you change the way you do everything. You're walking, you're bending, you're sitting, and so on. You're changing your spinal structure and your body architecture in that process, and now you benefit everything.
Yeah. And it's such a lifestyle change. It's not like you said, taking out extra time in the day and doing something, because in the house or outside, you're either sitting or walking or standing,
Yeah,
sleeping, lying down. And it's just about, being patient with the process, doing those exercises that you've mentioned, and you will talk about it a little later, and kind of making it a part of your day-to-day living instead
exactly.
of something else. So it's
Yeah.
just the way you move in the day and the way you are.
Instead of stepping outside of your life and doing your exercises and then returning. Most people are busy, and you don't really need to take 1 hour out to do this exercise, and then this kind of daily tweaking can also serve as a very natural meditation practice, because you're present to what's happening in the moment in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have some comments here, Esther. I will just like to put those. Is it true that walking relieves back pain?
Very good question. So, in this crowdsourcing website, healthoutcome.org, walking is one of the interventions that was rated by all the respondents. And it rates extremely low. It's like one of the worst rated interventions. And I think walking should be one of the best things for back pain, but it has to be done skillfully. And in particular, most people have a very tight psoas muscle from sitting for long hours and sitting without skills. And once your psoas muscle is tight, then when you go from sitting to standing, it's already challenged. When you go to walking, it's even more challenged. And every step then is pulling on your back, pulling your back into a sway, and that makes walking look bad. But if you know how to stabilize your spine and improve your structure and your way of walking, especially, then every step could be a psoas stretch.
Naturally.
Yeah. So walking well is the natural counterpose for sitting. And you want your sitting to be skillful as well. So between those, walking would come out looking very, very good. But most people walk in ways that are just problematic.
Yeah. We have more questions, Esther. There is one, there are two questions on sciatica. I will just put up both. How do we get relief from sciatica pain for a person who has gone through a prostate operation and exercise is not allowed as he is, elderly, a senior citizen? And there is another sciatica question, I think similar. What types of exercises to overcome sciatica?
To overcome sciatic pain. So the sciatic nerve, for those of you who don't know, starts in the lumbar spine at all the lumbar levels, L1 through L5, and comes between the pairs. Little nerve roots come off the spinal cord between the neighboring pairs of lumbar vertebrae, and then they join up to form the sciatic nerve, which is as thick as your thumb, biggest nerve in the body. And then it exits the pelvis at the sciatic notch, distributes down the leg. So if that nerve is impinged at any point along its trajectory, you will feel this as sciatic pain. That could be high up at the very origin of the nerve in the spine. It could be at the point where it exits from the pelvis, and there happens to be a a muscle sitting right on top of it, which if you don't do well by it could press on the sciatic nerve, but it could be anywhere else along the trajectory. Those two are very common locations for the sciatic nerve or the sciatic nerve root to be impinged. And so our methodology, our Gokle methodology is about, we cover all bases. We could spend time, and usually that's already done for us because Western medicine is extremely good at diagnosis. The machinery is amazing, right? The MRIs, it's almost like you get to go in the body and see what's going on. But X-rays are useful, and the clinical testing that a physical therapist would do is useful. So you know if there's a nerve conduction problem, which level of the spine is being impinged, or if it's being impinged further down along the root of the sciatic nerve. So that's all usually done for us, but we can do it too. But we like to put our efforts into covering all bases, like improve all of the lumbar levels, create more space between the adjacent vertebrae, improve the structure of the pelvis so that where the sciatic nerve, when it's as thick as your thumb, is coming out of your pelvis and going down your leg, has a normal architecture. So all the muscles in the neighborhood are functioning normally. And you don't have, for example, the muscle that sits right on top of the nerve, sciatic nerve, where it exits the pelvis. You don't have that muscle overdeveloped and in an awkward architecture pressing on that nerve. So we like to cover all of that in one fell swoop by teaching you how to sit better, stand better, rather than giving you an exercise. Go and do this, stretch this. We could do that. And that's what conventional medicine does. Yeah. But you're not getting to the root of the problem. So, I do have exercises in the back of the book. If it is a piriformis problem, lying on your back and folding one leg across the other and stretching the spine. I'm sure everybody knows the exercise I'm talking. Imagine I'm lying down and I have this like this, and I'm pulling one leg in. That stretch, for example, will stretch the external hip rotators and could be helpful. But that's a hack. It's okay. It's a good temporary little fix. And so are a host of interventions like acupuncture, like skillfully done massage, and so on. But if you really want to get to the root of your problem, you might as well get to the root of various structural problems you have. And our experience is in the mix, you are going to address with 98% certainty what's going on that is structural. So we prefer to take that approach. And then at the end of it, we have a much more pleasant puzzle to solve, which is which of our interventions helped get rid of this pain rather than what is causing this problem.
Yeah. So once you know that what helped, then you know how to work around for the next person, or you collect that information.
Person, if they are just intellectually curious, they can wonder about, wow, I did a lot of things. I wonder which thing actually got rid of my pain. But you can figure that out, and that's a more pleasant place of unknowing to be than I've got this horrible pain and I don't know what's causing it. It's nice to know what's causing pain, but it's even nicer to not have pain. And then you can figure out how you got rid of it.
Yeah. There's another question. I'll just put it up. Even if your posture is right, how to ensure that your back is flexible and not stiff?
So if your posture is right, you shouldn't have a stiff back. You won't have a stiff back. Usually, if the back is stiff, unless you had some accident happen and the muscles stiffened in reaction to a fall or a car accident or something like that, then the muscles have good reason to stiffen up because they're protecting you from this assault. But if you're just going about your daily life with skill, with musculoskeletal skill, then your muscles won't stiffen up unnecessarily. Yeah, it's just one of the sort of layers of protection we have to protect our nerves, our spinal cord, and our deeper structures. The muscles are there, and they behave like a guard. So one of the ways they can guard things is to stiffen up. So you have to ask yourself, what did you do that triggered that reaction? Like, were you bending poorly? Were you carrying poorly? Were you sitting poorly? That your brain intervened and said, wait a minute, my person doesn't know what they're doing. I have to protect. Let's stiffen up the area. Yeah. And that stops you from doing repeat assaults to the area. Like if you're bending poorly and the area stiffens up, now you can't bend it. The muscles prevent you. The stiffness or the pain prevents you from doing more mischief there. So look for the root of your stiffness.
Right. And then we have a comment. One simple principle that helped me was ears over shoulder, aligned posture. In reducing back pain, be straight, erect.
Yeah. So it's true that alignment, like of the head especially, this is a very heavy part of us. And if we stick it forward, then all the muscles, not only in the neck, but going down the chain throughout the back, are over-challenged. Yeah. And so it's true that having the head in a good place and having it retreat so that your ears are closer to your shoulders is a very helpful and significant piece of restoring your architecture. But how do you do that? How do you do that in a sustained way? Why did your head go forward in the first place? Is there a place lower in your spine, a structural distortion that is making your head go forward? Yeah, you have to address that too, because just pulling it back all day is going to create some serious stiffness if there's still an underlying issue. And usually the issue is in the pelvis. Yeah, the pelvis is like your foundation. And if it is poorly positioned, that's like making a building on a bad foundation. There's going to be trouble up above. And you can try fixing the trouble up above and putting more cement and whatever else. But really, you want to address if the foundation problem, if there is one. And similarly, in a human structure, the pelvis is very important. It's the base on which everything else settles. And so you want to ask what's going on there and everywhere else in the spine. Like if your back is arched and you're creating extra curves. And that's a whole topic of its own, because extra curves is what most modern people have. In fact, I have a picture sitting over there on my side, and I'll bring that up to just show how different the modern conception of what's normal is compared with what we believe is healthy in the Gokle method. So this comes from an old anatomy book published in 1911, and it shows this J spine with the behind. This is where your behind would be, and this is where the rest of the vertebrae stack really well. And it makes a lot of sense, this structure, because you can see that the disc spaces are cylindrical. So that's a fit with the cylindrical discs. But in modern times, we have come to believe that we should have an S-shaped spine, a lot of curve there. And it makes no sense. These discs, which are cylindrical, are being stuck in a wedge-shaped space. They're being loaded, and that causes degeneration. And if you let the degeneration continue, that can cause herniation. And your sciatic nerve roots are exiting right behind these vertebrae. So if the discs are being pushed that way, which happens after they weaken by having extra arches and then rounding when you bend, that will do the job of pushing the contents of the discs backward. And then if you have impingement on the nerve roots, then it's a problem. So this is the shape that we think is truly normal. We used to understand what was normal, but we've kind of forgotten in modern times. So that's what we do, is we teach people and we take them back to this more truly normal way of being in your body. And
Yeah, that was very interesting, Esther, because the spine that you showed us, like, which is the recent one, that is a picture or an image that all of us have in our minds that we've studied probably in textbooks.
if anybody has studied anatomy, that's what they've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in all of the anatomy medical texts. It is in every chiropractic chart, and we call it an S-shaped curve. And we think that's what's natural in modern times. The experts describe that as natural shape for the human spine. And in the Gokle method, we say, no, it's not natural. It is a description. It is a mistaking average for normal and even ideal. And that happens a lot in medicine. Like, you look around, and if everybody has a certain shape, then you assume that that's normal. Yeah. And then you start shepherding everyone in that direction. But when you have an 85% incidence of back pain, you don't want to copy the average. You want to go back in time, like that 1911 spine that I showed you. You also can go and look at young children before they've been informed by the culture to be a certain way, through the furniture design. Ergonomic furniture has all kinds of lumbar support, which we think, again, is taking people in the wrong direction. You actually want to decrease the lumbar curve, except at the very bottom, where the bottom meets the back. You want the behind to be behind you. But so we're doing all of this, mistaking the dysfunction that is around us for normal, because that's what everyone has. So surely it must be normal for our species, and that's mistaking. That's a mistake. And by doing this kind of not delving deeper, not going back into history and into other cultures where they live better by their body, and instead just copying the people around and describing that as normal, we're getting into worse and worse trouble.
Yeah. I think because we learn by just observing people, and we think that is the right way to walk, stand.
Yeah, we are all, our species is by nature is a copying species. Monkey see, monkey do. That's our nature. And when you have enough people who have poor posture around you, then that's what you're copying. In a village, you're also copying, and now you have better models. And so our job, that's our mandate in the Gokle method, is to change the culture around you so that everybody around you is beaming it out, and you know what to do. And between those things, you can really make a big change.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, whoever's watching this right now, I'm sure they are a little conscious about the way they are already sitting, because you like so perfectly, I mean, people have been saying that, the way you are sitting itself shows that there is something different that I think most of us behind the screen.
I'm glad. It's been long enough that you would think something has gone in, but I consider myself a work in progress. But I don't have any pains or aches, which is really nice. And I do a lot of demanding things with my body. And I still don't have aches and pains. So I'm so grateful. I can travel anywhere, sleep on any bed, sit on any chair. I know how to modify things to make it work for a human body. But when I have the choice, I like to stretch my back. And that's something I can actually show at some point if you'd like me to, because that's simple enough and even easy enough, and it doesn't have danger associated with, no matter what's going on. So for example, the gentleman who has just had a prostate operation and cannot do exercise, you can still improve the way you're sitting. Instead of sitting kind of in the usual C-shape way or S-shaped way, if you're trying to sit up straight, you can modify to have more of a J spine. And and that you can do no matter.
You can show us the exercise.
Sure. All right. So what you need is some kind of towel or behind you. I'm going to use my stretch sit cushion, which we designed to be sticky to provide friction. So these are rubberized nubs. Yeah. But you can use a towel. You don't have to have this. If the back is slippery, the towel will let you down. It will slip. Then that's a bit of a nuisance. Then you have to consult your inner engineer and figure out a way to make your towel
Right.
stay in place with clothes pegs and bungee cords and whatever else you have. But assuming you have a towel behind you, or I could put my cushion if this was a regular chair. Now I'm using the chair I designed, and this chair you can see has the sticky nubs sewn into the back. So that works really well. And it has other features which are conducive to sitting when I want to sit away from the backrest. But I'm going to show you a way of using the backrest to elongate your spine. So, assuming you have a towel or you have one of my stretch sit cushions, you put that behind. Yeah. So you want it to be, if it's a towel, you make a kind of strip side to side, and you want it to reach your mid back. And now you are going to come away from the backrest just a little bit. Okay. Because the broad brush of what we're doing is to elongate the spine and then stick it back to the towel or the stretch sit cushion, or I could use my chair, the nubbies on my chair, whatever you have back there that has friction. Yeah. So you're coming away, and now to elongate your spine, 2 techniques. So the first is to rotate the rib cage. Okay. So you can use your fists and push gently in and down on the lower border of your rib cage, and that lengthens your back, your lumbar spine. If you starting off with a big arch, like that S-shaped curve because you've been using support pillows and you've been using ergonomic furniture, or your parents told you sit up straight, stand up straight, all of these things, and that's how I got my original sway, very swayed like this, squishes your low back. Okay. So you want to undo that. So since I have my cushion built in, I won't use the extra cushion, but it could be. So you like this, and you come away, and now you use your fists and you rotate your spine, your whole rib cage. And then you take your hands and you gently push the top of you away from the bottom of you. Can you see how I'm lengthening my back even further? Now, here's a common mistake. As people do one or other of these measures, they start sticking their chest out because we're so habituated to thinking of sticking the chest out as being good posture. You know, if someone says, sit up straight, stand up straight, we do this. And we've actually squished our back. It's very damaging. So it feels a little counterintuitive to be going the other direction. So you want to take your hands and go like this. Yeah. And then stay that way as you further elongate your spine. Now you hook to the backrest and you totally relax. So now the spine is getting some traction as you sit or drive. So this cushion was originally designed for a car seat. And even though the road is bumpy, you are kept elongated. And so the discs and the nerves are not taking a beating. And the muscles are getting reset to be a longer resting length. Very helpful. So I'll do it once more from the front. So you come away from the backrest. You gently push your ribcage in and down in the front. That helps the lumbar spine elongate. Now I'm going to push with my hands, leave my seat in the chair, and then you lengthen your back further, and then you hinge back to find the nubs, and then you totally relax. Yeah?
Thank you so much for demonstrating that, Esther.
Yeah,
That was
you're
really
very
good.
welcome. It's a pleasure to pass. Yeah, I'm always happy when I can pass something on safely. And this is a measure whether you've had prostate surgery or you have sciatic pain due to some other cause, or you just have stiff muscles. Several of your viewers mentioned those things.
Yeah.
This can improve because you can be elongating your back. You're putting your back in a stretch while you're watching TV or you're talking to your friends or you're driving or you're at a computer. Your back can be improving itself instead of you're sitting there blaming sitting, feeling disempowered because you can't be exercising. You can still improve your structure no matter what.
Yeah. Esther, there's a question if using a belt is okay. My lower back hurts more if I stand for a long time and I have to use a belt. What kind of exercise will help, and is it okay to use a belt?
So there are many different kinds of belts. There's a lumbar support, which if you've had recent surgery or if your muscles are extremely weak and you cannot hold yourself up to take pressure off the nerve roots, the belt can be helpful, but you don't want to only use a belt and just get weaker and weaker. So you want to use the belt and let the belt educate you on what to do with your own muscles. So you're not just using it like a crutch, you are using it like a safety net to not
Hmm.
further collapse, but you're also using it like a coach to teach your muscles what to do to keep taller. There's another kind of belt, a sacroiliac belt, which can be helpful if your sacroiliac ligaments are inflamed at their attachments, something like that, because you've had your pelvis tucked, because you didn't have your behind, or some other reason like that, injury. Then it is handy to have a belt to keep that place intact as it heals.
Hmm.
You want to leave it alone. There's not that much blood supply to the area because nature was not expecting that we would be injuring these parts. That would have been
Yeah.
extremely rare in the past. So we're not provisioned so well to heal them. Now we have to wait for time and whatever little blood supply there is to do the job. So while you're doing that, keeping it a little bit immobilized can be helpful. There's lots more to say on this.
Yeah.
So it depends what's going on, depends what kind of belt, but don't use something and just become totally dependent on it and let your own muscles go south, nor avoid using a belt because you think, oh, I'm going to get dependent on it. You want to take the best of both, your own
Yeah.
contribution from your muscles as well as props from the outside. And that applies to all kinds of props, not just belts.
Sure. Thanks, Esther. We have another question. While sitting in an office chair, is it good to sit in a chair with headrest or without the headrest and keeping the head free and straight?
So it depends what sort of position you are using. So in the Gokle method, we describe stretch sitting. If you're going to stretch sit, it depends on how slanted you are. Yeah. Oh, so let me take one case. Car seat. You need the headrest because in case of accident,
Yeah.
that's what's going to keep you alive in certain circumstances. So that's one case. If you are the opposite extreme, if you are going to be working ahead of you, then we have a technique we call stack sitting where you line your whole, well, it's very important to place the pelvis in a good position. But once you've done that, you want your back to line up well. And then you won't need a headrest. A headrest, trying to make contact with the headrest would just get in the way. But if you're slanting sufficiently, like on a reclining chair, then you better have a headrest because otherwise your muscles are tensing to try to keep you in this place. Yeah. So it depends on your angle and it depends on your task and it depends on your position and chair. So lots of
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah, a lot of questions, Esther. We have more question. Having a good footrest while sitting so that you don't slide forward and bend your spine also helped me a lot. Is this true or is it just my imagination?
So that depends a lot on your relationship with the floor. Yeah. If you're too far from the floor, then you better have a good footrest. Yeah. And, but otherwise, the floor is a very good footrest, right? Or your chair, the stand on the chair, or something. So there's no, it's one of those things that depends. Yeah. It depends on how you're using the footrest and for what. If it's to slant your feet, then we have to ask what's happening higher up. Is your chair too low that your knees are coming up high and you are overtaxing your gluteus maximus, for example? Because if it doesn't have good flexibility and you raise your knees high, then that could tuck you. And then maybe having a footrest further out, or, so that you can, maybe that would be helpful. So there are some situations in which a footrest can be helpful. But the most important one is if you're too short for whatever chair or sofa you're sitting. The Victorians used to have tons of pillows everywhere and footrests and so on, so that you could customize the sitting tool for the person's height.
Okay. I remember seeing a lot of those pictures in your book of the Victorian era.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from history.
Yeah.
People used to live better by their bodies in
Yeah.
past times.
Yeah. And you have so many pictures actually explaining that. I mean, you have pictures from history of people who have
Yeah.
those perfect postures without being, told how to sit or stand.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And it's really true. Like, for example,
Yeah.
I just opened to a favorite picture of mine. Like, this is a carpenter in Burkina
Yeah.
Faso where I visited. And so this guy's not going to the gym and doing pec decks and stuff. Look at his chest. That's really marvelous. And that just
Yeah.
comes from having natural structure, breathing naturally, which then, reinforces
Yeah.
reinforces that structure. And then I also used pictures to show things from history and wrong things, and a lot of pictures to show right things. This is like the mom is doing for her baby what we were just doing for our backs, stretching. And that is one of the very important things that you want to do for a baby. So any grandparent or parent out there, keep this picture in mind as you carry your baby. You want to be elongating their spine as you go. And then I use pictures for step-by-step guidance, like, do this first, do that next, and so on. So yeah, lots of pictures and illustrations just to make things clear. I tried my best to teach what we have, what can be taught through a book. And then we also have a DVD, which helps clarify what the book is trying to do. But the best way of all is to get coaching. It's like if you want to be a good tennis player, you're probably not going to be able to do that from a book. It's just hard to learn kinesthetic things because all your systematic errors they feel very normal to you. And it takes a coach to see what you're doing that's not right. And when you change it, it'll even feel funny. And your coach needs to reassure you that, no, look in the mirror, look, this is fine. This is just an interim, this, that, awkward feeling. So it takes a coach to help you cross through all of those awkward feelings and habitual ways of doing things that you're unaware of to take you to a better structure. So that's what we provide. We provide one-on-one coaching online, and in person, we do it in small groups. And we have a teacher in Mumbai, actually, who travels around the country. Obviously, COVID has put a big damper in her activity, but Sangeeta does teach our methodology. And so if people have a group and they want to study this in a small group setting in person, that's possible soon, we hope.
That's great, Esther, because I think a lot of this information is also there on your website. Who are the teachers? Where are they based? All your free workshops, the other workshops.
Yes, and that's a good thing because this format hasn't allowed me to share screen very effectively, but we do free online workshops all the time. So if you just sign up on our website for the next free online workshop, you'll see a lot more pictures in a way you can actually, that will make sense to you.
Yeah.
So do join
Sure.
for that.
Yeah. Another question, Esther. Do you also work on the cervical portion of the spine? If yes, do you have posture exercise product suggestions?
Yeah, we definitely know the neck connects to the back, connects to the hips, connects to the legs. It's all connected, and we absolutely work on the spine all through its length, including the cervical or neck spine. And so, what are some suggestions? See, like with injuries, rather than focusing on one area, we focus on it all. So to get the neck to line up, it's critical to have your foundation, the pelvis, in a good position. Before you put your pelvis in a good position, you better prepare the spine a little bit, create a bit more space so that this remodeling becomes safe. So we have our step-by-step way of addressing all of it, including the neck. And products, hopefully you won't need products. The only thing you really need is knowledge of your body. Sometimes a prop or two can be helpful. Like on our website, we have links to some products that we haven't made. I've only made about 5 things because I try not to just make a lot of stuff for that's not really necessary. But there are a few things, and there are neck hammocks and neck traction units. A lot of them pull you in the wrong direction, the ones that go over the door and pull your chin up. In my view, that's the wrong direction, increasing the curve of the neck. You actually want to go the other way, and there are some traction units that will do that for you. So we have a couple of them listed on the website.
Sure.
So you can search there. But
Yeah.
mostly it's knowledge of what you want, what you need to do in your spine that's needed.
Yeah. And Esther, I just very curious, for you to show the picture, like what does good posture look like so that people can have that image, in their
Well,
minds. And
I'm going
yeah.
to step out of the way and let the experts speak for themselves. Let me go this way. So behind me, we have the 3 model groups that we teach from. So rather than me stand up, let me just point to what they're doing that is commendable, that is ideal, that is natural. So what it looks like is what they're doing. And can you see my cursor or not?
No, no.
Okay, that's fine. So you can see, for example, the young child has her behind, and up above it's relatively flat. So that's what we call a J spine. And you can see the Ubang tribesmen in the middle are also showing this even groove running on the midline of the spine. And then the behinds are very much behind. That is that's a key piece of good posture. It's a J spine. Your behind's going to be behind, up above it's relatively flat. And you can see that the Greek statue also has this J spine. So that is one feature of healthy posture, a J spine. And then beyond that, of course, there are natural things that happen in the feet and the neck and so on. And I could go on, but we're out of time. And so I'm going to invite those of you who are interested to visit our website, goklemethod.com, and sign up for one of our free online workshops where I can go into certain details that we couldn't get to in just an hour.
Yeah.
And we
Yes,
can shepherd
and
you
I
along.
think, yeah, and I think this topic is so vast and interesting, Esther, that we will have to probably grab you for another session, or I will just direct people to your website because an hour just flew past. There is
It
just
did
so
go
much
by
to talk
fast.
about.
It's
Yeah.
true. We could talk for hours. It's true. But I have to go for a meeting.
Yes.
And
Yes.
our time is up.
Yes.
And it's been really delightful to
Yeah.
talk with you.
Likewise,
Thank
Esther. And I
you.
think the people have had a lot of questions and they will continue to have, so I'll pass them on. But I will urge people to visit the Gokle Method website. I think Esther's already put that on here. And I will again, post some useful links here so that people can refer to that. And yeah, and then we can just get started. So thank you so much, Esther. Thank you so much for your time.
My
And thank you
pleasure.
so much, everyone else. Thank you
And
for
thanks for
joining
all
in.
the questions and the interest and and thanks for inviting.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you so much. Bye.